What's going on, everybody? So, thankfully, to my buddy, Mr. Tyler Woody, shout outs to you. He actually reached out to me, wanted to see if I was interested in checking out Boss Bottled Marine. And typically, I don't really go after stuff like that when it comes from an audience member, somebody that watches the channel, like one of you guys. But I was intrigued. I was like, why not? He insisted. And lo and behold, he actually sent me a very large decant. As you can see, I've been spraying it quite a bit. I've spent some pretty good time with it over the last couple of days, and ready to give you guys my thoughts on Boss Bottled Marine. And to be honest with you, based on the name and the way the bottle looks, it might not be what you think. So let's talk about it. Stay tuned. So obviously I can't go over the presentation because it is a decant, but it is a large amount of the fragrance. I do have it on my skin at the moment, pretty far into the dry down at this point. So honestly, the opening blast, you get this apple minty freshness. It's bright and airy, and you're not thinking it's going to turn the way it does in a few minutes because it's just very bright. It doesn't have a lot of an aquatic marine type of feel because with the name and the color of the bottle, you're expecting a heavily aquatic fragrance, and that's not what you get in the opening here. Like I said, it's a blast of apple mint and very fresh, airy, light, not real dense, but it starts to quickly turn into a cinnamon heavy clary sage bomb that somehow, and I cannot account for in the notes because I'll have the notes on the screen at some point, I can't account for this aquatic feel that does start to trickle in. It does start to have a little bit of a marine vibe to it, but it's more so a heavy dose of warm, spicy cinnamon and some nice kind of dense green clary sage. It adds a density to the fragrance. So it gets much more green and warm, spicy than aquatic overall, but it does have just a little bit of an aquatic feel. I don't know if that's that mint note maybe blending with what I was just saying, it's a bomb of and creating this slightly aquatic marine type of accord, but it does give you a little bit of that, but I wouldn't sit here and call this a marine fragrance overall. It does stay somewhat true to the original Boss Bottle DNA with the apple cinnamon type of smell, though not so much apple pie because it's more of a fresh green minty type of feel with this apple. It's supposedly a frosted apple note is what's in the top. And it does, I mean, I don't know if that's because it's mixed with the mint or this is some fantasy apple note they've created, but it does give that bright, minty, airy, fruity apple type of smell. And you get, like I said before, a big dose of cinnamon in the heart of this fragrance. This is really a cinnamon dominant fragrance. Then the clary sage really comes in to add that nice green edge to it. It has a nice light woody feel, but it's not a dense, heavy type of wood smell because it is a cashmere wood, which is a very smooth, soft wood type of note. I don't get much patchouli here. Predominantly what this turns into on my skin for the majority of the life is after about 2 hours, I would say the apple's pretty much gone. The minty feels kind of faded away. I'm pretty much left with the cinnamon, clary sage, woody type of feel. Whereas the cinnamon does tone down. It's not quite as heavy in the deeper dry down, but the clary sage and the cashmere wood kind of hang out, and that might be the patchouli adding a little bit of that earthy green feel, but it really has more of a clary sage type of smell to me. So not the most complex fragrance. It does change a little bit, but the name is a bit misleading because it's not really that much of a marine fragrance, but overall it is a very pleasant smell. Very enjoyable. It even gets a little powdery on my skin, believe it or not. Though none of these notes traditionally really get powdery on my skin, it does have a light, soft, powdery nuance to it pretty much throughout the majority of the dry down for me. And like I said, it's very pleasant, easygoing, easy to like. I can see some people finding this to be a boring scent release, but if you can judge it for what it is on an individual fragrance basis, it's actually quite a nice aroma. Let's discuss performance. So performance doesn't really leave anything to be desired for me, but it's not really a serious beast either. From my testing, I've clocked it in the 6 to 7 hour range every time I've sprayed it on my skin. So I would consider that slightly above average overall. 6 to 7 hours, especially for what you would think would be a very fresh fragrance, which is actually more of a fresh than fragrance that transitions into a warm, spicy green fragrance. I think that cinnamon kind of helps give it a little extra staying power. Usually cinnamon dominant fragrances tend to perform pretty well for the most part. Not necessarily beastly, which this in no way, shape, or form is beastly. But like I said, 6 to 7 hour range is solid. That does fall into the sweet spot for me personally. So I'm totally happy with 6 to 7 hours. Some people may get a little less. Some people may get a little bit more. So projection is actually quite stout in the first hour and a half to 2 hours for me. This is one that if you do spray heavy, it's going to be a bit much. It really will. Not a beast in any way, shape, or form, like I said, as far as longevity. Same thing here with projection, where it's not a beast, but it does push pretty well. It has a bright, airy, ozonic, aroma to it in the top, so it really gets out in the air light and easy. But as it starts to intensify in the heart with the spice and green aspects, it's still pumping pretty good. Like I said, hour and a half to 2 hours is where the heaviest part of the projection really fell for me. I would consider it arm's length-ish type of stuff, not really beyond. You'd have to kind of be downwind from me or in a very well circulated room to smell me beyond that, honestly. So I would consider it kind of average projection overall, which, again, totally fine for me. All of this performance really falls into the sweet spot for me, and the sillage that you're left with after the projection starts to die down is mild to moderate at best. It's not a really strong trail, but there is a nice mild trail that will follow you and linger just for a brief moment as you pass. I have not personally gotten any compliments or anything in the times I have been testing this and wearing this. Like I said, I've knocked several ml out of this. This is like a 15 ml decant, and I haven't received any compliments or anything like that, so I can't really judge will it have a high compliment factor or not. It does smell like a decent attention getting type of aroma. The performance is there enough to grab somebody, especially in the first 2 to 3 hours, but it doesn't blow me away to the point to where I would say, man, this stuff I can see in the long run getting some compliments. Yes and no. Can it? Sure. Has it? No. Overall, I think it's a decent fragrance. I don't think it's a run out and buy type of fragrance. Definitely try before you buy if you can. I have way more than enough in this decant, so I probably will not be getting a bottle. Again, thank you, Tyler, for sending this out to me. I really do appreciate it. You actually saved me some money because, honestly, if I bought it, I'm not disappointed in any way, but it doesn't really strike me as something that I'm just going to keep going back to over and over. On occasion, I will, because I do like the way it smells, and it does perform about, in that sweet spot in my wheelhouse type of territory. But if I had to put an overall number on this one, I would put it at like a 6.5 out of 10, where, yeah, it's pretty good. I don't consider it very good, but it is better than good. That's why I say pretty good. 6.5 out of 10 kind of falls into what I graded Prada Luna Rossa Ocean, but I would take Prada Luna Rossa Ocean over this. So there's maybe a little bit better perspective for you. If you were deciding, I would put this in a similar family, maybe not quite as sweet as Prada Luna Rossa Ocean can be, but I do think Prada Luna Rossa Ocean is the better grab if you can find them for around a similar price. I think that would be the better way to go. But if you do get your nose on this one and you like the way it smells, hey, you like the way it smells, it might just be for you. Like I said, pretty good, but not great. Not a rush out and buy. Get your nose on it, sample it, get your hands on a decant like I did, whatever you can. Blind buy safe if you're into this style of fragrance, but I feel like if you have a sizable enough collection, there's potential for you to think it's an underwhelming fragrance for the money you're going to spend, because it is a pretty new release. It's not going to be easy to get it at a heavily discounted price at the recording of this video, so I would definitely say get your nose on it first, just so you can be sure. And until next time, do me a real quick favor, go ahead and like, comment, subscribe. I do appreciate all the feedback. I love hearing from you guys. How many of you have already smelled Boss Bottled Marine? It's not exactly what I thought it was going to be. I actually didn't look at the notes until I had already got it and started smelling it. And I was surprised. The opening kind of was walking the path of, okay, this kind of fits the name and the theme they're going for. And then it got really heavy on the cinnamon and warm spicy, and I was just and that's what made me look at the notes, and I was like, why is this not getting aquatic? Then it does get a little bit of an aquatic feel, strangely enough, but not so much so that I would have named it Boss Bottled Marine personally. But it is a really good smell. Does smell really good. Until next time, I will say, if you get your hands on Boss Bottle Marine and you give it a spray now, you might end up thanking me later. Have a good one, guys.